what is required for you and your companies to scale up and to grow and to prosper in this region, and really to while remaining active in this region?
So I think that it's really important to scale what really made this happen. And from the 1928 point of view, it's collaborations that we had early on that made things happen. With research for Chalmers University of Technology as well as Sahlgrenska University Hospital, and to increase and maintain these collaboration and partnerships at many different levels.
Thank you, Kristina. And Erik, when I spoke to you the other day, you mentioned that there is one particular thing that is absolutely on top of mind for you. And that was related to scale up. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Gladly. So thank you so much for having us. Of course, it's a pleasure to be here. I think that one thing we're talking about is of course revenue, right? I mean, you have to build your revenue, you have to scale your company and bring in essentially dollars, right? Because at the end of the day, you got to pay employees, you got to pay your vendors, suppliers, and you got to continue to build the organization. And I think that, if I look at the region, we're extremely thankful for the support that we've received, both from a national perspective, but also from a regional perspective. As you mentioned, we are a university spun out company. Our focus has been to bring a novel medical technology and innovation essentially to a global market. And we've done that by always thinking globally, right? And what that entails is that we have to surround ourselves with people who also think globally. And I think a great benefit has been the universities and the educational institutions around in this area. They've provided us with excellent people who've been able to help us to grow this organization forward. But at the end of the day, it's coming down to the revenue and the customers, and how do you continue to serve these customers from all different types of perspectives. So from our scale up phase, I mean, I can remember, and these go in multiple different phases, right? You go from complete startup or innovative technology where you have to essentially validate these new innovations with customers, all the way to the first sale, the first 10 sales, the first 100 sales, and then bringing in 10 people, 20 people, 50 people, 100 people. So I see things more in phases, but whichever phase you're in, there are certain required there's a certain required infrastructure that you need to rely on, and I think having so many universities around yourselves here in this region is a major benefit. From a regional perspective, collaborations, they go up and down, right? I mean, typically in the med tech or life sciences field, collaborations are typically dependent on some kind of government financing, grants, soft funding. And I think one thing that this region has been very good at is to provide early stage startups and innovation companies with funding at a very, very early stage, right? I mean, you can get financing when you have an idea, and then you can explore that idea, and it can be debt financing or it can be some grants or whatever it is. And I think that is of course a crucial factor for success. In terms of the collaborations with universities, I mean, they become as good as you make them, right? I mean, it takes two to tango, and if you want to have a good collaboration with local schools, you got to reach out for it. You got to make yourself relevant. You got to offer something in return. And I think that from that perspective, we have been very successful, both here locally, regionally, nationally, but also globally.
As Erik said, we are also had the feeling of being global from start, traveling a lot and so on all over the globe. And we also have a lot of interest from outside of Sweden to join the company. And then we need it to be easy for them to come here. For instance, senior people who has families, so that the system, when it comes to education, putting their kids in school, and also for the spouses, etc., to easily get a new job. And I think there are very good functions. For instance, if you are a doctor coming to a hospital and then there is some help for them from within the hospital organization. And we would very much want the same, to get help and have a very positive feeling of getting talent from outside, and also to have a good educational system for them, because of course it's important to have a good place where you feel that you will have the same standards as you can have anywhere in a good hub anywhere in the world.
Erik, anything that you would like to add on this topic? And you have business, you have an office as well in the US as well as in Gothenburg and in other places around the world. Does it differ in terms of talent attraction, or do you think that we have a sufficient support system for it?
It's a great question, and I think as an American, I can be the testament of kind of what Kristina is saying. In the U.S., we have a different mindset for entrepreneurship. We embrace it in a different way, right? I mean, it's very well embraced in Sweden as well, and it's being highlighted by the royal family, and I've myself been part of Prince Daniel's Fellowship. It's been a fantastic program, highly recommended. But there's still a lot of things that can be done, right? In terms of tax structures and financing for relocations and things like that. I'm not sure how much I would be asking our government for support. I mean, it's kind of it's more of a matter of, if I see a talent that I really need, and I bring that talent from abroad, I will most likely pay those costs, and it's kind of out of necessity. But of course, something that we're seeing now as we're scaling tremendously is housing, and I never thought that housing would be that big of a conversation, right? But all of a sudden, housing is a major challenge. So we're bringing people from India, from the U.S., from the UK, Italy. I mean, all corners of the world, and we can't really offer them any sustainable housing situations, which essentially creates it's a major challenge. And of course, you'll figure all of these things out if you're an entrepreneur. But the question is just what kind of experience and what kind of customer service per se do your employees perceive in such situation or scenario, right? So you always want to have a nice figured out situation. Everybody's very warm and welcoming, and I think this region is doing a lot of work in improving that, right? So the Gothenburg region has a few offices or programs working with expats. They've prepared a lot of information, and they're being a lot more proactive. And so I think I'm quite happy to see those projects taking place.
Moving on, I'd like you to think about other countries, and Erik, I'd like to turn to you. Other countries where successful cluster collaboration is very prominent. Of course, you have an office in Boston, and Boston is, for all of us, known as one of the world leading cluster and hubs for life science, both research and industry. And there are others, Cambridge, where AstraZeneca moved their headquarters to. But also closer, if we look at Norway, they've been extremely successful, especially in the oncology side, to establish themselves as a world leading cluster. What do you see in those clusters that we can learn from in West Sweden, and what are the prerequisites that absolutely need to be there?
It's a great question, and I could probably dedicate the next 2 days answering that question. but I think, as you're saying, Boston, Cambridge, both U.S. Cambridge, but also UK Cambridge. San Francisco is a big hub for biotech. The Research Triangle on the East Coast down south. These are all great areas for biotech, but first of all, these are places where biotech and life sciences has grown for many years. So they have a first mover advantage, and that's for that reason you have large pharmaceutical companies that have moved or established their presence in these areas, which has been a major driving force, right? I think for this region right here, I think one benefit is, of course, having large pharma companies or biotech companies establish themselves, some kind of presence, not just administration, finance, or accounting. You need actual research and development taking place in this area to successfully get a sustainable community. I said it before, I'm going to say it again. Revenue for us it's a driver, right? We follow the money, and that's what you have to do as an entrepreneur. Otherwise, you're going to be finding yourselves in situations where you're spending a lot of time working on pro bono projects, which might be exciting for future development, but might not bring in the money to pay your people or build your company. So from that perspective, we have to find customers and find opportunities in this region. And from that perspective, AstraZeneca, a major driver, right? The universities are major drivers. And I think that there are a lot of things that are taking place at this time. I think there are great customers up in Uppsala as well. I mean, around KI, KTH, these universities are great hubs as well. But I think one of the major driving forces is really going to be how many of these larger corporations can we attract to this area. And how much of their development could we subsidize through this area so that the smaller biotech or life sciences companies could tie themselves to their network and be an integral part of their development.
Kristina, you mentioned when we talked that being proud of your community around you and talking about both industries and academic institutions and healthcare institutions is something that you see in other clusters as being absolutely crucial, and of course here. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, of course. I find that very important and have a very strong feeling of we. And I also can add to what Erik just said. I mean, because it comes to we have a very good startup opportunity here, and we need to build it to facilitate scaling as well. And then funding is key. And as Erik said, I totally agree. We also have a lot of the majority of our big funders and investors are from the region or Sweden, but most of them from the West Coast actually. And they want to see examples on collaboration, and also examples when you scale your collaboration. If you can find that also locally, that is a very strong sense of confidence that is attractive. And then if we can scale that by such an initiative like we have here, but I think the way to do it is exactly as you said. You can have pitch competitions, and you can have different activities and events, because it's about meeting more and more often to get to know other stakeholders within the academia, companies, big corporates such as AstraZeneca and Chalmers as being an institute, but also with the hospitals.
Yeah, so this we feeling of being we and togetherness and how we can get a little bit closer to what has been created in the ICT and mobility industry. That is really what our hope is with Health Innovation West, is to get closer to one another. So that's great. Finally, I'd like to dwell on the question of daring. You have both talked about this a lot, that sharing is great, but in a collaboration, it's not just about sharing; it's also about daring. Who wants to go first on this one?
I mean, I could just connect it to what we just talked about, because it's about when you gave the example, Erik, from the US, where entrepreneurship is really very, very what everything is about, right? And that's, I think, where we differ a little bit. You need to dare to be we together with the companies, both from the hospital and healthcare perspective, and to do things together. And that's where I think such an initiative as Health Innovation West is really, really important. You need to create areas and events and structures for us to meet because it's a little bit slower here. We just don't jump on and make things happen together and brag about what we do. We need to be more brave to really do that, because that's what we need. Then we could do things much faster. And it's also faster and much more efficient to do it locally where you are. It's much faster to build those kind of relationships. But we need to dare to do it. We need a little bit more time. Then we need to find the places to meet, so that the span in time will decrease and it will happen faster. We love fast.
Erik, do you like fast?
I couldn't agree more. Speed is crucial. For daring, it's all about finding the opportunities with local partners and companies and universities. And I think, looking back at it, U.S. is typically where new innovation and new trends are born due to the fact that it's, to dare is part of the culture. And I think that we could learn a lot from that. I think we could implement more of that here. And perhaps not just on the company level, it's perhaps in the universities too, right? Because a lot of these researchers, they typically they look for what other economies or other researchers in different regions around the world are doing, and then they're adopting either that technique and saying, oh, this is a well-published study or a well-published technology, I will start utilizing it. But I think we could learn from other nations and regions as well to be a little bit more daring and say, perhaps we don't need to try only the very well-tested methods. Let's go out of our comfort zone. Let's think outside of the box. Let's use some of these local innovations and let's be the first ones to publish, right? And take pride in being the first, because I think that goes a long way.
Yeah,
Thank you. You go.
No, there are already examples of this that we have experienced, and I think there are many different initiatives as well. And for instance, with the University of Skövde here in the region, they are very brave, I must say, and worked with us early on, as of course with Sahlgrenska University Hospital. Without them, we would never been able to try out our software for transmission analysis of bacteria spread and so on. And also there are other initiatives like the specialist education for doctors here in Gothenburg, where there actually is a special track where you can have a course in technology and innovation. And part of that is being, spending some weeks together with companies, which is a great initiative and will create a very good environment for entrepreneurship for the future when it becomes a part of how you work in general.
I have a question for you both. If we sit here again in 2035, will we expect to talk to you as representatives of companies that are still present in this region?
Yeah, I believe so. I strongly believe that this region has a chance to become a leader in life sciences and provide the crucial and essential resources for local companies to thrive. We have, since the start, we have manufacturing here, global support, we have sales, marketing, management, we have financial support. We have all functions located in Gothenburg, and I think from that perspective, we don't see any downside of it. We want to see future growth and scale up, and I think we're in discussions with local partners to create that future for ourselves. I think from that perspective, we're quite happy to continue to scale up.
Kristina, how about you?
Yeah, I totally agree with Erik. We will definitely stay in this area. But with that said, we're also a global company, but so we are and will be at other places as well. But to have Gothenburg as our own hub, especially with initiatives such as yours, which we facilitate to grow here as well. I look forward to it.
So do I. Thank you both for joining us today, and let's get this party started together.
Thanks for having us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.